welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions he asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records of cash. We laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magic, let's passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers, what? All the answers.
I like that you said alls I want.
Alls I want, see? That's all.
What are you, some kind of okie?
I think he's an oldie-timey gangster.
I have been watching Peaky Blinders.
Oh,
There it is.
Alls I want, see, is the hospital bed laying, see? That's actually old Jewish man, is what that is.
That's an old Jewish man in an old gangster movie. It's a little bit of a combination of types.
Tom Hardy is the greatest Jewish gangster ever put on screen.
Okay.
Does he play a Jewish gangster?
Yeah.
In what?
Peaky Blinders.
That guy is so fucking hot.
Amen.
He's like the kind of hot where you're like, I can't even tell you what you look like. Like, if you ask me to describe Tom Hardy, I don't know any of his features because his charisma and his essence is so fucking emanatingly hot.
So you go sort of half blind every time you see him?
I think I just fully
Like
leave
your
my
perceptions
body.
melt slightly?
No, I just go to Jupiter, leave my body entirely. All I can do is feel him emanating at me, and that's all I need.
Just emanating all over you.
He's a hot motherfucker. Can you
He
believe
is.
how hot
He
he
is.
is? You know who's hot like that to me too is
Me. I know. It's cool. Thanks.
You just gained a lot of hot points, by the way, by telling me you wouldn't mind looking at my ass. That helps me.
Good.
Because when you don't know as a woman, you just walk around as a woman with a history like mine thinking like, yeah, everything about me is terrible. So I'll just lean on the positive things that are really intellect and personality. And I'll do my best because this is a frumpy mess. So anybody wanting to see any kind of ass at all is like, well, hello, sir.
I'm glad that one of your closest non-sexual friends leching after your body is a positive.
It's a positive, brother. It's a positive. Because there's nothing creepy about you. Like, you're not, to me, like, there are certain people I know in my life. I wouldn't say anyone I'm actually friends with, but some people I've interacted with where I'd be like, oh, no, you don't get to say that. No.
Yeah, I feel like I have people that I care very much about that I totally enjoy having like flirty or sexual banter with. And there are some where I'm like, I would prefer not. And it's not even about attraction. There's just something about like the particular version of the flirt or sexuality banter that makes me go, no. And I really like this person otherwise.
Okay, but is it about, so now I'm curious, is it like you get a sense from those people that it would feel unsafe to them?
Maybe.
Like it's an honoring of the person that they are, that you know on some level, like this lady doesn't need to be sexualized by me. She needs me to be like her buddy.
Yeah, that's probably a big part of it is my own, like, my own walls that maybe I'm projecting. And they'd be like, no, it's cool. You totally could have those conversations with me, but I don't know it.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Because I think I give you more credit than you're giving yourself on this topic. I think there's a real thing that happens where you can feel in a dynamic with someone when it's just not okay. And I think you're a sensitive, wonderful human. And so you can perceive that. And so you're not going to cross that boundary. But with a weird, loudmouth, dirty whore like myself, you feel, and I'm being silly and that's not true and la 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 for the listeners, but I'm saying with how I comport myself and our history, I think you can feel in the field that it's like, I could say that and she's not going to freak out or internalize it or interpret it or, you know?
Yeah. And we have enough of a relationship that if I ever cross that line, you'd go, boop, you'd raise your hand. And I know that because it has happened, like where we both identified things for each other where we're like, nope. And you're like, cool, thanks, move on.
Yeah. And also, I do want to acknowledge too, for women listening, me being like, quote unquote, okay with Cassidy making a comment about my ass is not meant to say any woman who wouldn't be okay with it is doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
Or is not free enough or not open. I want to really state that quite clearly.
Yeah.
That is not the template I'm setting here, because again, there are plenty of people in my life who, if they made any reference to my ass, I'd be like, you have to leave the building now.
Yeah.
There is no context here. You do not have a safety. Where'd you get the idea that you could? No. In fact, let's talk about it.
Yes.
Couple days ago, now let's be clear too, this was right after my victory in the courts.
Woohoo, by the way.
Thank you. I went to the courts and got a permanent restraining order, which makes me feel much safer in my life. And that was an example of me having to stand up as a woman in front of a bunch of strangers, including the offending stranger, and say to them, here's what happened. Here's why I was terrified. Here's why I need protection from the law. And the law heard me and supported me. And I cannot begin to really express how grateful I am to that female judge, number one, to the court system for actually having something that doesn't suck about it, because there was a lot that sucks about it. And three, to that dude who showed up, owned his part, said, she's right, I did all that shit, my bad, so that the court could say, cool, permanent restraining order granted. Crash of the gavel sound.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And then shortly, and I wanted to say that here today, because I had several people respond to that podcast episode with like messaging me saying like, oh my God, I just heard the episode. Are you okay?
Yeah.
So I want to follow up and say, thank you for asking. I am better now because I feel protected by the court. And I'm amazed as a privileged white lady, let's own that, who hasn't had to deal with the fucking court very much, that how much safer I feel now that that's in place, because I don't have a dude living in this house to protect me. I don't have
Right.
one. And that shit's real.
And I would say that also you, like, this does go directly to what we were talking about, which is you had to go to the courts to tell someone that specifically your attention is unwelcome.
Right.
Which is what, like, and we're talking about it a super extreme example, but like on the micro example of like, you're talking about my ass is unwelcome.
You're 100% right. And so anyway, me being loose and free about Cassidy commenting on my ass is, I'm wanting to give context around that because there's a lot there. So, but the story I was trying to tell
I don't mean to laugh at like such a serious topic, but I just love that we have to keep returning back to. Let me be clear about that. It's okay for Cassidy to talk about my ass. Okay, going on.
Yeah, it's a fun sentence. So after that happened, like 2 days later, I'm like finally relaxed in my nervous system after about 4 weeks of feeling completely on edge all the time because I was being stalked and harassed, and that is terrifying and not okay. I like finally come down, I'm feeling better, and we had to hire someone. Let me think about how to tell this story. I needed some help at my healing space with a outside contractor person who showed up, was hired by my landlord, showed up, and moment one was a dude by himself, looked me up and down, like real slow and obvious. There was no missing it. It was like slow eye gaze down the body, down the legs, up the legs to the crotch, across the torso to the face. Like it took that long. I felt like, okay, that's gross. And then was fixing what they were there to fix, wouldn't stop talking to me and asking questions while I was clearly like focused on my computer trying to get work done. Finally, I said, the person said to me, sorry, I hope I'm not bugging you. I'm just social like that. And I said, yeah, and I'm thinking inside, no, you are bugging me. And you should get clearly from my body language that I'm not available to talk right now, but you don't care because you want what you want right now. So I say, no problem. I just have a deadline and I apologize for being rude, but I can't really chit chat right now because I have to get this thing out really quickly. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to stay over here and do my work. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, no problem. Then proceeds to keep talking to me. What do you do? Energy work. What is that? I've got to work on this deadline. Oh, sorry. 20 seconds later. Is it like massage? Keeps going. Can't get a fucking boundary to save his life. Finally, he says, I tell him a little bit. He's like, well, what does it cost? And I go, here's my card. You can look at my website later. And he's like, no, just tell me the cost. And now he's getting kind of aggressive. And I'm like, go ahead and check out the website. It's all there for you. I'm not really going to get into pricing right now. I have to do this thing. And he's like, wow, so you're like a really accomplished, talented lady, huh? And I'm like, everything about this interaction feels weirdly flirtatious, aggressive at the same time, boundary crossing, clueless, and inappropriate. He takes my card and later that night texts me from his phone to my phone, saw your website. You're so talented and pretty too.
Jesus Christ, people.
So I don't fucking respond. And then I call my landlord and I go, FYI, we're never calling that guy again. He is not fixing the thing we needed. No. And I tell him the whole story of how it went down. And he's like, wow, okay. So we start looking for a different contractor to do this thing that we need done pretty badly. But I'm not fucking putting money in that guy's pocket. Then I'm almost done with this story. My landlord tells the guy who referred us to that guy made me feel uncomfortable. And the guy who referred us to that guy, according to my landlord, got quote unquote indignant because that guy couldn't possibly have made me uncomfortable because he's married with kids.
Oh, Jesus.
As if someone being married with kids has ever been the reason. Sorry, hold on. Squeezel, you gotta chill. Right, okay. As if a man having a wife and kids has ever been a thing that would necessarily mean he couldn't have possibly said anything inappropriate because he's married. And I'm like, no, now it's doubly inappropriate.
I'm so fucking pissed off right now. I'm so mad at stupid people, men in particular, but Jesus Christ.
And this was right after this whole thing happened. And I'm kind of looking at it and going, all right, psyche/universe. I understand. Like, so something I know from like just basic psychology is that when you're working through something in yourself, the universe will suddenly show you a bunch of external mirrors of that thing. So you get a chance to function in a different way in response to that situation.
Yeah. And
so what I get is that I have been in the past victimized and have behaved accordingly. Like I'm going to be spiritual about it, or I'm going to blow it off and not acknowledge the shittiness of it, or I'm going to let men be toxic in my energy.
You've been very
field.
accommodating.
Yeah. Oh, it's my issue. I shouldn't be so reactive. So the universe is like, oh, you seem clearer now. Let's go ahead and show you. Let's test this. And so now I get to be like, no, motherfucker. And you just lost some business. So fuck you twice.
Yeah. So now also the contractor, the guy who hired the subcontractor is also fuck you. You're not working for us anymore.
That's right. Yep. Because for a millisecond to defend someone, like what on earth would cause me as a woman to make this story up and tell my landlord what am I trying to stir the pot for fun? Yeah. I'm trying to get a job done. And this clown came in and added a twist to it that now I can't get the job done. So what I made that up?
Yeah.
I just want the fucking heater fixed. It's pretty simple.
Thank
Thank you for getting it and empathizing and understanding, because I'm definitely done in my life with this whole, like, we're going to be uber fucking spiritual about people's bullshit.
It talks a little bit about the sort of national scene of like, it's time for unity, forgive, nothing happened. That bullshit around like, stop, now that you have the power, don't hold anybody accountable for anything that they did prior to this moment because it's time for unity. That couldn't possibly have happened.
I don't think that's actually how things are being held.
I think that is, no, those things are being asked for by a certain number of Republicans. They're straight up saying like, I don't think that's a topic we want to dive down maybe necessarily, to be honest. Yeah. It's just that I do think that there is a sense of like, but that's the defending in order to not deal with. Like that is probably where this contractor's coming from. They're like, oh, they couldn't possibly have, because then I'd have to deal with that. I don't want to have any consequences that I'm responsible for. So can't we just agree that didn't happen?
Well, 100%. That guy's being a denying dick.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, but this is a good segue. It's an important topic, which is like when I hear Biden say in his inauguration speech, we got to heal and do unity now. We have to all come together.
That's a different thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
That lands for me like not deny-y. It lands like there's nothing about that administration that sounds like they're like, and never mind, all the Trump shit didn't happen. I mean, Kamala fucking Harris is standing next to him. There's no way it's going to be like,
right.
It just doesn't read that way. But I hear you if what you're saying is that there are some Republicans saying that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. They're calling for it in response directly to two things that are like, hey, let's have a trial. Oh, can't we have unity? Hey, let's hold people responsible. Let's do unity. Do you see this? Oh, my God. That cat is adorable.
I'm being sexually assaulted right now by my own cat.
I'm not even going to say, I can't say the P word, by your cat.
My pussy cat.
I'm just going to say cat.
She's on my lap for the listeners and put her paw straight up onto the boob. And
yep,
so I was
totally pawing the boobs.
Showing Cassidy the boob in the video there.
Yeah.
Well,
that goes to the whole thing of like truth and reconciliation that I think we talked about in the past. It's like you can't do reconciliation until you have truth. Unity is not a function. Peace is not a function of denial, glossing over or denial. Peace is a function of healing. It's what we talk. It's the same thing. Feel the emotion. You gotta go through the emotion before before the light can make it into gold.
And it's like the whole racial justice thing that's so gratefully happening now, where people of color are saying, no, we're not going to just. It's not okay just because the 60s and 70s happened. It's still real fucked. So y'all we're going to keep saying words now. We're going to be loud and you're not going to like it and you're going to feel uncomfortable and deal with yourself, which is where I'm at as a woman with here's where I think some women, we can make a mistake, which is to whitewash and generalize about all men.
Right.
That would be a mistake on my part. I do not hold it that way. Men have a problem. Men, get your shit together. No, men who behave inappropriately and disrespectfully toward women, get your fucking shit together and fuck you anyway in the meantime. We are not little objects for you to toss around while I'm trying to get a fucking job done. And I'm so done being cute and nice about it. So done. Because being cute and nice about it has not accomplished anything in terms of the behavior changing.
Yeah. Well, and I do think, though, that there's a weird catch-22 that happens where anybody let me be clear, any man who says, hey, not all men, in response to someone saying men are garbage, if that man feels the need to say, hey, not all men, he probably isn't there. Like he is part of the problem, because those who know, like if you can recognize the difference. If someone says men are trash, I don't get offended, because I know that what that means is so many fucking men are trash. Also, men, come get your brothers. Look after your cousins, men. Go, deal with them also. Like, deal with your fellow men. Help the problem. So that's all. My point being that, like, I totally agree with what you're saying, Katie. Of course it's not all men. That's also part of the thing, is like, of course it's not all men. Of course it is. But I appreciate the differentiation.
But what you have to get, Cass, is you say, of course, because you're you.
Right.
But there are so many men who haven't done the amount of work you've done and weren't raised by the parents you were raised by, who it's really, really not an of course. Like, they don't get that, like, they just don't get it. And like, I don't hold men who are ignorant of what they're doing in contempt, but I hold them responsible. It's like, I'm not going to condemn you, but you need to understand just how bad it feels to me when you talk that way and objectify me, and I'm just hiring you for a job. It's really not okay. And it makes me feel very bad. And it makes all women feel shitty. And it puts you in a terrible position. So it's like, talking about it, hopefully can shake some men who maybe aren't aware of what their behavior is creating into awareness around it. I wish it was like, I mean, for you, it's of course not all men, because you've really looked at all sides of this, and thank God for men like you.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm a little different in my indignancy. Of course I am, because I have a different experience entirely. But where I'm like, I kind of, in my heart, I'm kind of like, you get one chance. I just told you that what you did was shitty. You denied it. Now I do hold you in contempt. Like, sorry, you don't get to keep healing over and over. I'm not the victim, but if I were a woman, I would be like, in my head, I'm thinking, you don't get to keep healing over and over and over and over at my expense.
Well,
you get to keep learning at my expense.
Yeah, not healing, but you don't get to keep failing at my expense.
Right. Like here's the info. It's right here. Here it is.
Yeah.
Nope. You're choosing to ignore it. Then like this landlord, like, no, you were told what happened. You denied it. Now you are one of them for now.
Well, and so to be clear, it wasn't my landlord. It was a guy my landlord hired.
Yeah, that's
what I
meant.
Hired this other guy. But your point. Yeah. I just want to be clear about that for
very important.
Listening. But I mean, the contempt part, I think, is problematic, though.
I agree.
I really think it's problematic because this is the whole conversation that, like, I mean, I even give Biden credit for, he talked about this in his speech kind of at the inauguration event, which, by the way, I cried all the way through. Lady Gaga, holy shit, fucking nailed it.
I have to do the Lady Gaga thing. I haven't watched that yet.
Poet laureate, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The show after, fucking everybody made me cry. John Legend, I can't. It was so good. It was so good. But anyway, he talked about, I know that a lot of you who didn't vote for me are upset and feel disappointed. And I want you to know I'm here for you too. And what we have to stop doing as a nation is saying, like, and I was hearing this on a different podcast this morning too, this idea that, like, okay, it was a podcast about empathy. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but these ideas are going to connect. This psychologist who's a professor at Stanford was teaching Dax and Monica, an armchair expert, about empathy. And he was talking about how there was a study recently that said, or an article that was published that said, hey, so Biden won. So every liberal, would you be willing, like, fill out this survey and say how willing you would be to reach out to a Trump supporter, and say, like, hey, I know this must be hard for you right now. How are you doing?
Yeah.
And that the responses to that question, that survey, were vehement, angry, fuck you. No, hell no. Why would I express empathy towards people who voted for someone who I think is a maniac? And it was really good for me to hear that, because it got me back kind of on track with my whole belief around that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks on the podcast about unity and how, the complicated relationship we have with when are we forgiving, when how much empathy do we employ, when is it okay to just be mad and indignant about stuff. Anyway, my point being, this country actually needs to heal. And there is no healing if I have decided that no Trump supporter in the world is worthy of my empathy.
Right.
This country's in trouble if we're not going to be able to hear each other. Because the Trump supporters of the world, and even the ones who went fucking crazy, who are maniacs and fucking broke into the Capitol, there's something they're not being heard on.
Right.
Now, it's not okay that they did what they did. The actions there needs to be consequences for that, 100%. And what I found myself this week over and over going, okay, hold on, Katie, because this whole time my attitude has been, what the fuck do they think? What country is being stolen? What do they think they're not getting with these liberals? But then my attitude this week shifted to, like, okay, hold on, curiosity. What do they think is happening? What country are they losing? What have they been saying that they feel isn't being heard? And the reason I'm asking is, like, I have to now start approaching this with curiosity rather than indignant righteousness. Because if I come from indignant righteousness, I'm no different from the things I'm mad at them for.
Right. Well, I think the wonderful thing about, like, the sort of what, some people are complaining is the sort of centrism of Biden. But the wonderful thing about Biden is literally, in a sense, he is about as opposite a type, a personality type, a whatever, a human. He is about as opposite a human as you could find, except that he's also a white man, but an older white man. But other than that, like it is win or loser versus actual desire for unity.
Yeah.
It is, you know, I only support those who support me versus I am here for all of you and actually believe it. It is probably actually does not have the capacity for any form of emotional intelligence or empathy as demonstrated over and over and over publicly. I can't say for sure because I have not actually had a conversation with him versus someone who is clearly deeply empathic.
Yeah.
Deeply because of his woundings, because of his loss and how he's coped with that. Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Desmond. So the point so my point being, like, we have to take up his example that he's giving us. He didn't come out and say, fuck you, Republicans. I mean, of course he can't say that, but you get my point. His platform is not aggressive. His platform is like, we have to find a way to hear one another so that we can repair. There is no repair without being heard. There isn't. There's got to be some format or some. That's why I was saying last week on the podcast, like, where is the leader or what is the space where reparation can occur? Yeah. Who's going to take us through the healing? And maybe it's Scott Lifton.
It might be. I have one more thing to say while we bring Scott in. Yeah. And that was, he did say one thing that was like a zero tolerance policy, and I loved it. He said, if you disrespect each other, when he brought on all the new staff members, he said, if you disrespect each other, I will fire you on the spot. He says, if you treat anybody in this circle with disrespect or don't see them as a full human being, I will fire you on the spot without pause. I was like, damn, girl, you really brought that.
He has to show some fucking spine, right? If he's got no spine, you can't. I mean,
but I love that what he's standing up for is humanity and not politics. He's standing up for humanity.
Good to see you.
Speaking of standing up for humanity, Scott Lifton.
Oh my God, I walked into something deep here. Look at this.
Have you listened to the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, it could, but it ranges, right? You guys could be talking about, like dog farts, or you could be talking about the end of the world. Everything's fair game.
It's true.
Yeah. We usually have a nice deep talk at the beginning, and then the person who comes on weirdly we end up touching on the same theme. So we'll see if that happens. No
Let's
pressure.
Not tell him the one topic we brought up earlier and see if he brings it up.
Sounds good.
Cheese.
Nope.
Scott motherfucking Lifton. I feel like we need to tell the listeners a tiny bit about Scott here. I'm going to do a little Scott intro, and then I'd love to hear whatever anyone else wants to say about Scotty Lift and the Liftones. Yes, Desmond?
Can I lead it off with one sentence?
Ugh. Yeah.
Scott Lifton from the once hit podcast, Apocalypse Now.
Fair enough.
Oh, shameless plug. Shameless retro
also
plug.
Also to be heard in the archives of Sounds Awesome.
Forever, for eternity.
Currently on hiatus. Let's just say that.
Yeah. It's hanging out. It's waiting.
All right, Katie, back to you.
First of all, I'm a little. Are your eyes okay, Scott? What's happening with your eyes today?
Oh,
are you stoned?
Are you tired?
I actually no, I'm not. I'm not stoned today. I got actually the most sleep I've gotten in a long time.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, maybe this is me with sleep. Normally you get me at maybe half-ass sleep.
Like I might have actually said I might have said oh, I hope Scott wasn't just crying 4 minutes ago. So we could I feel like you look like maybe you were just crying.
Oh, no, I was not.
Okay.
I have my eyes have been having slight burning-y and maybe borderline eye infection-y thing, something a little like that.
Okay, so
that's for an ophthalmology podcast. That's
but I'm not fully insane then for thinking there's something going on.
No, yes, but it would be not emotionally. But thank you for checking.
All right, now Scotty Lift and the Liftones is here, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know how to even. Who in the world? I challenge the universe to show me a human being that has interacted with Scotty Lift and the Liftones and not left feeling more ebullient, bubbly, happy, enlightened, joyful. Scott's just one of those goddamn fucking people who brings so much joy to the moment and the room and the world that I, in my neurosis and self-involvement, can sometimes compare myself and feel like I am a downer, bummer human being because Scott is such a bright, shiny star. But that's in my lesser moments. In my best moments, I'm just like, thank God this guy's in the room because now we're all having fun.
Oh,
That's
buddy.
Scott fucking Lifton.
Oh, that is great. Thank you. I mean, now it leaves a lot to live up to in the podcast today. If I am not
don't fail.
energetic, it's going to prove you. It's going to be a real bummer.
Yeah,
but, thank you.
Up. Now all
That's
the
okay.
pressure. But Cassidy, do you know what I mean? Like, don't you find in a general way, like Scott and Callum can both be
they're very,
people who-
we said similar things about Callum Grant, but they're different. They're different energies.
super different.
Super different energies. No,
Yeah.
I've always agreed with that. I mean, getting first to know Scott through different contexts and being a little bit kind of like, that guy's really cool. I want to hang out with that guy. And like feeling a little bit, not intimidated because you were intimidating, but because of that, like, oh, he's the cool guy in the room. He's the nice guy in the room. He's the guy that makes us all feel like we want to be there, which I think is a really important function for a lot of, not everybody needs to be that way, granted, but like, I think that is a really powerful tool, like, cause you do a lot of emceeing and host type stuff as well as, and I've worked with you in all these contexts, but, I think it's important that there be people who make us want to be there. That's, I think, the best way to put it.
Yeah,
like
you have a very like engaging, welcoming energy and presence that makes people be like, okay, we're doing this now. Whatever this is, we're going to do it because Scott said. And then, but you know what it brings up for me, and I do want to hear your thoughts on this, Scott Lifton, is like the 7 on the Enneagram and how, I would, if I were typing you, which I would never do that, but if I were to type you, I would say you're probably a 7 on the Enneagram.
I might be a 3. We're both claiming.
No, I've talked to you guys about this. I think it told me that I was 2. I was equal between 2.
No.
I think it was 7 and something else.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't agree.
I know. I think I've told you this in the past. Like, no, you're a 7.
It can't be right. I disagree. But I'm an 8, so I'm a pushy bitch. Point being,
That's what the pushy bitch. That's what it says.
It is.
It's the Enneagram.
My point being, like, I wonder, Scott, do you feel like when we describe you that way, do you feel like you're that like that's an accurate, like, does that feel true? And then my second part of the question would be, does it ever feel exhausting or like a burden or difficult to carry that kind of lightness in the room? Because the 7, if you were a 7, which you're clearly not, but if you were, the 7 can sometimes like play the role of keep it light for everyone. And as sometimes a defensive way to avoid whatever pain is present. Like we all have our ways of avoiding, not just the 7. I have plenty, and Cassidy is riddled with them. Riddled. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
100% kidding.
No, she's kidding. No, not really.
Not really. It's true.
Yeah.
No. So, but what do you think about all those? I've said 90 things. How does any of that?
Well, first, I pulled up my like Enneagram email. It says the 7, the enthusiast. It also has a high ranking for 9, the peacemaker.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That'd be your wing. So maybe you're a 7 with a 9 wing.
That's what I would go with.
No, it's funny you should say that. I mean, all of that, everything you said rings very true. I feel, I carry a lot of contradictions in me. I think you've talked about a lot of this on the show, right? Like I am an extroverted introvert, and that's always really difficult to wrestle with, right? I love people, and I love to be around the people that I feel blessed by the people I know that I'm friends with. And lately now, as I'm older, if I'm in a party and there's say like 15 people that I know and really like, I get pretty overwhelmed and I kind of shut down. I need to leave. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to realize just recently that like I need alone time. I need to charge my batteries. And so it's strange to carry both of those in the same being and try to hold that, right? Of loving and needing people and also needing to not be around them. And
100%.
And I feel like there is like an internal pressure. Yeah. I have always been the guy, like if I'm in the room and it's silent and it's awkward with everyone, it's almost like that's on me that I haven't brought them together or lightened it up or something. Like I've almost pressure on myself that is not from anywhere. It's unconscious, but like it's my responsibility, which it's not.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, we all have those.
So yes, everything you said is true. Yes. I like to do that kind of stuff, and it's also exhausting.
I got you.
And it's also great.
So it does still bring you fulfillment. It does still feel good also, or does it just feel draining? Or is it
yeah. It's not like,
okay.
Oh, I gotta go hang out with Katie and Cassidy and safe stuff.
And be funny and oh God.
And I have to have a good time. Yeah, it is something I feel strongly about. It's funny, it's my profession also. So
right.
Yeah.
That works out.
I mean, just for context for the listeners, Scott I first saw Scott as the producer of the local version of Mortified, as well as being one of the storytellers of Mortified, which is a show in which people read their writings from their youth, basically, before they were the age of 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious and mortifying and amazing and awesome. And Scott was the host. And I was like, that guy's really cool. And then I saw him hosting for like things like The Freeze, which was part of Mortified, which is this rap comedy thing that's very similar to Freestyle Love Supreme, which everybody has heard about. And then I also work with Scott at Feet First Eventertainment, which is a events company. That's where Katie and me and Scott first kind of converged as people that knew each other all together.
Well, and I got to know you a lot through Speechless.
Right.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and then, of course,
even before Feet First.
In fact, that's how I got hired at Feet First, was through Speechless from you, which is another comedy show and improv thing that
Scott has been at various points producer of, and then Cassidy and I have performed with as.
And I say that all to say that you have to do that function very actively as an MC. That is the job.
Right.
That is the job of an MC, is to have everyone want to be there. Like, that's your function. Or when you're doing the Feet First event stuff, like your job is to kind of make sure everybody wants to be there. So you have to, I just want to vibe with that sense when we're doing it in a social situation, that we still feel responsible for the room, even if it's not even our party sometimes.
Only if it's needed, right? If someone else is kind of doing their thing and the room's engaged in that, then that's great. You know, it's there. But if it's, if the room is quiet, there's just like unconscious, things that it'll just fly out of my mouth.
Right. I got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Or someone's not being included. And I'm like, how do we include them? How do we include them? How do we include them?
Yeah. So it's strange, to carry those contradictions. It's kind of like, I mean, think about your show, right? And even some of the premise of how it started of like, I know being in the woo-woo, right? And I think in Cassidy also like especially being like a skeptic, at least in the original. And so I carry both of those things also. I am from New York and living in California. So it is that, optimistic cynic, the optimistical cynic, or like the skeptic new age person. And then it's just hard to carry all these things at the same time. It's strange.
Yeah. The, in sort of Jungian psychology, they call that holding the tension of opposites, and being, in other words, there's a real psychological thing that people deal with, which is the tension of the opposites within us and what to do with that tension. And it's interesting to me to look at that concept through two different lenses. One, the psychological lens, or I should say, some Jungian psychologists would frame it like, you just hold it. You just acknowledge it, just like you're doing, and you just hold it and be like, there's that tension. Some spiritualists would say you bring that tension to the divine and you let it become the unified field. And then you have a lot more peace in your being and a lot less tension internally. So there's different approaches to what to quote unquote do with that tension. And I've definitely done some specific ass shit in my life about those tensions, because for me, I really needed more smoothness and edges to be rounded out inside of me because of how uncomfortable I felt for so many years with all these they always felt like jagged edges that made no sense together and that made me feel stressed out inside myself. So I did a lot of the second thing of bringing light to the tension of opposites, and found that it became, I don't know, there's just a lot less tension I'm carrying, but there's trade-offs to that. And I'm aware of those trade-offs. And so I feel very humble about it, in the sense that like, I'm very clear at this point that there is no right way about anything. And there's certainly not a right choice for what to do with the tension of opposites within us, even as is evidenced by the fact that the Jungians say this and certain spiritualists say that, and who the fuck knows?
Right. You try what feels good.
That's the other title of our podcast. Who the fuck knows?
Who the fuck knows?
All the answers and who the fuck knows. Right. Opposites and then the tension in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. I had a healer say to me, I think last year, she was like reading my energy and doing some work on my field. And she said, "Oh, wow, you really pursued internal peace hard, didn't you?" And I was like, wow, I didn't even frame it that way for myself until you said that. But, and it's actually one of those things, you know, when somebody says something to you and it stays with you a long time because there's so much truth in it and you're just like, fuck yeah. That was one of those where I was like, that is literally what I spent the first half of my adult life doing, is like, I am going to find out and figure out how to have peace in this body. And I did it. And to be very real, it's an interesting, weird thing because it comes with some real trade-offs that I didn't know about and I didn't expect.
Trade-offs in aggressively chasing after inner peace?
Yeah. I mean, well, arriving at...
I like that, aggressively chasing inner peace.
Yeah.
That sounds like the title of an autobiography.
Exactly. No, but what I'm saying is that there's a kind of peace inside me now that it means a lot of... I don't make sense to a lot of people. There's a lot of like people who I either have to teach them or send them on their way because I can't connect. I don't have the same problems they have, and I don't see problems the way they see them. A lot of people want to bond about problems, and I have a hard time sometimes, not all the time, because I'm not saying I'm the Dalai Lama or something. I'm just saying when you've spent as much energy trying to get the edges softened inside yourself, the edgiest, the more people walking around with a lot of internal edges, it's not a thing I really can. I got nothing for you unless you want to come to a class and I'll help you smooth those edges out. We end up like at the dog park with nothing to say because we're in such different worlds. And it really changed my relationship to theater and comedy and so many things I spent so many years involved with, because certain questions got answered internally that then meant I don't really need to do that stuff anymore, which I know is a big statement. That's a big statement. And it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And it makes my relationship to that entire world totally different now. Now it's like I would, if I were doing some theater, or a show, a stand-up show, I would have to just choose to from joy. I would have to just really want to from joy. Whereas before it was like, almost like I had to do it. I had to act. I had to do comedy. It was like there was an imperative within me. And that have to is gone. It's totally gone. And that was like, I didn't know that would be a thing that would go, but it went. So now I'm like, oh, well, if I don't have to, do I want to? And I sit with that question a lot. And a lot of times the answer is not really.
And is that have to based on, you talked about people kind of bonding about complaining about problems that aren't problems. Is that affecting in terms of the acting community, or is that a separate?
Well, that's a separate thing, because the community is a whole separate thing that definitely I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
Because the whole drama of all that makes me tired just thinking about it. But I'm thinking too, just about like the actual impetus to make the art has really changed inside me. Not just the people relationships, but like when I look at, I'm out here and I've had this idea for a theater company out here since I moved here, since I got here. And I'm back and forth with it a lot, because sometimes I'm like, I don't actually need to do that. So it would really be a service for the community, but I'm already doing service with my other work. So I'm not sure how important it is. Like, I feel like the need that was getting met in me to create by creating, some of that need is just gone. And some of it is getting met by just existing. Anyway, this is my point. See how weird it is?
No, it's not that weird.
I wonder for Scott, this is a question for you, sir. Like your relationship to, was seeing sort of there is a common theme with all the work you do, right? And it has to do with mostly it's comedy. There's a thing about hosting in almost everything you do, like being a facilitator of stuff. But it also has to do with a lot of like storytelling, and a lot of stories are being told, like through, for example, through Mortified. Like that's sharing our past and our histories and our stories. I mean, do you feel like there's something in you that there's a reason this is all the work that you do? Like, why have you pursued all these avenues, which are very similar, but also very different? Haha.
That's,
Personal self-analysis, go.
I had that moment. That's a really interesting question. This is a classic example. I mean, and bring it up here. I don't know if I actively intentionally pursued these. I feel like it landed these things. My paths kind of landed in a certain way. When I first did Mortified, my friends started in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for a whole 5 months. I think I lasted like 5 months. I was like, yeah, I changed I have an LA phone number. I bought a car for the first time. I'd lived in New York and San Francisco, and I was dead set. And after a few months, I was just kind of like, I could get in the film career out here, but I could do that anywhere. And I really missed the Bay Area, but when I was down there, I sat in on my friends' Mortified auditions. And when I came back, they said, hey, would you want to start one in San Francisco? There won't be any money from it. And, it's just kind of if you want to do it. And so I was sure. And did I know that would change a course of my life, right? It did become really successful in the Bay Area and became something that made money. It's how I got involved with The Freeze, and then would later, because of that, get involved into Speechless. And because of that show, also, Dave saw me do that. I said, oh, he can host and do team building events. So these are not things I've pursued. This is just kind of, and it's one yes that I did in my life that led to like all of these branches. And it's fascinating to me how that all kind of turns out. So yeah, I did not pursue any of these. But, when something feels good and sticks, it feels good and sticks, right? And, Feet First, which is mentioned on your podcast a lot. I feel like it should be a sponsor of it. There are ways of I can see the way of there are people that are just the get over it. And it's like, yeah, I have to wear an outfit and do like, I'm sitting in a corner and like whatever, and I have to amuse people and stuff. And I guess for me, I think it's like you said, I do like bringing joy to people's lives and team building. And I guess I don't like work per se. Like, for me, like having fun is not work and play. I mean, a lot of people like to be actors. I've heard actors say that, like, I don't like working per se. So I just want to play and, wear on different clothes and personalities. And so I guess I feel sort of similar. I mean, there's other aspirations. I still want to make movies and I really like music and film, but everything is based around that and like entertainment. I am not drawn to politics for every reason. It would be great to change the world, but that is just not my bag. But entertaining does seem to be the thing in some fashion. Does that answer the question?
Totally.
I think it does.
I love what you said about the one yes. Like that is a thing that is like when you can trace those roots in your life, those moments, we're like, oh shit. Like literally, like I have a story where if I had not gone back to my dorm room between classes that day, 100% of my life would be different right now. And
How so?
Yeah.
It was a crazy thing where I was supposed to get hired to work at this summer camp, but I had not followed up and they were like, fuck it, we're not going to hire him. But then she was like, I'm going to give him one last phone call. And I was in college and I happened to go back to my dorm room between two classes, which I never did. These two classes that I had back to back, because I was like, oh shit, I got to go hop to my skateboard, zipped home. My phone in my dorm was ringing. I didn't have an answering machine. The phone in my dorm was ringing when I walked in the door. I picked it up. It was this woman from this camp. She was like, this was your last chance. You almost blew it. And I answered that phone, and this was a place that I ended up working for 10 years, met most of my community. It's where I met Rami. That's, like a lot of my theater connections came through that job. Like everything in my life would be, maybe I'd be a famous actor in LA now if I hadn't taken that phone call. But anyway, my point being, those really important yeses are really, I think those are, and that goes to the thing, Katie, you brought up about like, if you're wondering, it's probably not a yes. Like generally, if you're in touch with yourself, you feel a yes. As opposed to think a yes, or I might be kind of.
Well, I think I probably, because I'm me, overstated that point. Because I mean, I have so many things in my life where I've been like, oh yeah, that's a yes, but let me wonder about it for 6 months. Or let me overthink it for 3 days or whatever it is, So I can certainly find a yes later, even though it was there the whole time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose these stories of the one big yes don't help. They actually make it harder to make those decisions because you're like, this could be the thing. This, like if every decision you make is the most important, could change the course of your life.
It's always the decision that you think is not that big a deal. It's like you just talk to someone at a bar and you don't realize like that will set up. It's not the one like, oh, if I go for this audition, this role will change it. It's never that. It's always like the small things, you know?
That's so
and
true.
There's even, I see people that are just kind of like trying to make big decisions or say careers or anything. And it's just like, just try something. It's going to be like a path towards something. Yeah. As opposed to, nothingness. If like people I think don't know like what to do or what's the calling, just like stepping outside, it might be volunteering at something. It might be just saying yes to trying something out, and always leads to something. Yeah. So, I love seeing the branches and paths from making decisions. It's fascinating.
And all of this brings me to the human design concept that we've talked on here a lot about, which is like when I hear Scott talking about this thing that led to the thing, to me, I would guess that you're a generator in the human design framework, and that as a generator, you're functioning quote unquote correctly as a generator, which is like generators are meant to wait to respond. So life is supposed to like stimuli comes in and you respond to it, rather than like initiating and going out and like, I'm going to start a business. Like that would be what a manifestor would do. But a generator, if a manifestor were functioning correctly for a manifestor, but a generator functioning correctly would respond to life. And so I hear that whole thing as someone said, like, you want to do this? And you were like, yeah. And then from there, tumble into where you are now, which seems to all really work for you, which is really lovely.
Yeah. Although I question, sometimes I question everything like that you're saying. I feel like, is there something I should be manifesting for myself? But
that would be a very common thought for a generator to have.
You would say that, you generator. That's such a thing a generator would say.
Well, it's true, because all generators. No, because all generators think they're supposed to be functioning as manifestors, and all manifestors think they're supposed to be functioning as generators.
That seems like shitty design to build in.
Who designed this? Can we get
We're going to build in doubt into this structure.
But it makes
it's not
sense,
that they built it into the structure. It's that's how human beings are.
I know.
Whatever you're doing, you think, oh, it's probably wrong. I should be doing what Scott Lifton is doing, or I should be doing what Blossom, my friend in Michigan, is doing, or I should be doing anything other than what I'm doing because I must be doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the more important point to look at, which is how easily and quickly folks go to, a certain type of person goes to, which is a lot of us, goes to like, there has to be another way. I have to be doing this. Look at all these other things people are experiencing. Shouldn't I be doing, that? Fill in the blank, whatever. And I like this example of the, what you're saying, Scott, about that it all has to do with entertainment and making people happy and stuff. Because for me, I've had a lifelong kind of wrestling complex relationship with entertaining people. And I think part of my work with Feet First actually was what started to help me understand, like, I don't like this role in life.
You're welcome. If I can help you bring closer to that decision, you're welcome.
You should feel good about it, because I'm sincere when I say that I thought any form of play and fun and costumes and I'd be happy. And so I did every form of it. I mean, not just Feet First, a million things. And then it was like, oh, no, it has to be, I'm just a different animal is what I'm saying. But I was trying to be more of a Scott Lifton type animal, and then creating a lot of stress for myself and being like, why am I so unhappy? Oh, I don't feel in alignment with this anymore. What's in alignment for me is all this fucking truth telling shit. I'm all about like truth and liberation of people from not truth. But I'm 40, how old am I? 42? 43? Can't
You're
remember.
younger than me and Scott. That's all I know.
It took me years before you told me the answer to that question.
Oh, that's so funny. That's true. But my point being, I'm however old I am, and I don't know, in the last 2 years, I kind of have surrendered into like, that's the role I do best in this world. I don't do best in the role of like, we're going to make you happy right now. I kind of hate doing that.
Wow.
But I hate it. Like, I hate it. I'd much rather.
Is this you now and like how you evolved? Or do you think you always hated it, but there was some other need? Like, what high did you get from acting? You had something or performing.
Well, I think that, it is who I have become. I do like when people are pleased, but one of the things I love about stand-up and why I started to be more into stand-up than acting is because with stand-up, you get to tell people some really true shit. You get to be like, look at this fucking reality, bitches. Oh, and you want to laugh? Sure. Let's laugh while we're doing that. Because if you laugh, you'll hear me more.
Yeah.
That's my MO with stand-up comedy. That's not, but I had to get to where I'm like, oh, that's really not what all comedians are about. Some comedians are like, whatever. If they're laughing, it's good.
You're like the George Carlin type. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, there's no point in saying it if it's not waking somebody up from some denial they're in. Like, because I'm all about truth and breaking down kind of illusions and lies. But that's also like, if you're into astrology at all, my astrology is that. I'm an Aquarius with Sag rising, which means it's all about breaking structures, new structures, telling the truth, being a renegade, and waking people out of their sleep. That's my jam. And so I often have felt guilty inside of like, we're just having fun now contexts, because I know that my role was supposed to be like, what they hired me for was just let them have some fun. But the whole time I'm going, nobody here is telling the truth about anything. Can we talk about the fucking truth? And then I'm mad all the time because I'm in the wrong place.
I mean, acting is a lie at its base, right? You are pretending to be someone else. And performing acting is only one part of it. Yeah. Like stand-up is totally different.
Right. But before, acting for me, I now understand when I started it. And for all those years, it was the only way I felt I could tell the truth. In other words, the way I was raised, there was no truth at home. There was nothing useful. So,
oh man,
that's true. So
yeah, I know.
So I became an actor because I found that with acting, you could be like, fuck you, man, as a character. And it was a way to have a true feeling without getting judged for having your feelings.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Or I could do vulnerability because it's safe here to be vulnerable. Or I could do sassy funny because it's safe to be sassy funny. Because I didn't feel safe to be sassy funny in and of myself because home was not safe for me. So once I realized that, I was like, oh, what if I could work on myself and get to the place where I feel safe being whatever in any moment? Would I still need to act? And for me, the answer has been, I do not.
Yeah,
but
that's big.
The stand-up piece is a very different animal because, like I say, stand-up is a thing where, I mean, you can just look them in the eyes and be like, truth bomb, bitch.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to like put a costume and become another lady and look a certain way and tits up. Like none of that.
Cassie, do you feel like you have to go tits up when you act?
Pretty much all the time. They're always like a little more titty.
Yeah, actually, Cassie, what is for acting, what is it about it for you? What do you get out of it at your core?
Yeah, I want to challenge your assertion, and I know you only meant it sort of as a joke, Scott. Going on with what Katie said, like, yes, acting is as its core a lie. I would say is pretending, but it's in the service of truth. It's still you individually are pretending in the service of a greater truth. And yeah, when I'm doing something that carries no truth, let me set like madcap comedy aside. That's a separate beast for a sec. But if I'm doing a play that's just like, here's a play, then I don't want to do it because there's no point to it. Me pretending is not enough. Now, if a play that has any kind of underlying like truth to it that is doing like similar to what a Katie comedy stand-up would do, then that feels like I'm serving a need. And then like beyond that, like madcap comedy serves, I think, a slightly different need, which is, like think about a play that I've done 7 billion times, like the 39 Steps. It's not saying shit as far as, but there is still something about fracturing people's shells in order to just get them to laugh till they pee themselves. Like that I think there's just an important function in it.
I agree.
But then that shit better be good.
Yeah. I want to be really clear too when I say all this shit. This could all change tomorrow. I'm a real like mutable beast. Like no, seriously, like I don't want to claim like I've attained some status that's somehow superior or something. It's like the way I hold all of this is like, this is where I am today. But given what my life has been and how much change there's been in my life, I would be a maniac to assume I know what tomorrow is going to be. I might be like, I'm back to acting, everybody, and we're going to put on costumes forever. Tomorrow, that could happen.
And I don't think you're judging right or wrong the impulse to act.
That's correct.
For you, or you are for yourself in the moment, but not in general. Like, oh, I'm better because I tell comedy truth.
And I'm not even judging for myself. I'm choosing for myself, which is different from judging. Because if you can choose from non-judgment, you can go like, that stuff is really fun, and I'm going to choose this other thing because for this other reason. Anyway, I'm so like mutable and changeable anyway that like, I mean, who knows? Next week I might be like, you guys, let's do a circus act across the country together. I got an RV. You know, I don't know.
I like her Ethel Merman voice. Whenever it's talking about acting, it has to be Ethel Merman.
It's always.
That's the only way to act is Ethel Merman.
Scotty, I'm Scotty. No, does people call you Scotty? I do.
Yeah, some do.
I have always actually been very fascinated with, and I'm going back to, I know you didn't start the show, but I associate you with it, with Mortified. The very nature of why that's such a popular form, the form of, I'm going to read shit that I wrote when I was younger. And most of it is horrible, but there's something deeply connective about that. I don't know if you have thoughts, theories, feelings about it. And you have read some of your own stuff on that show, which I have loved. I didn't write anything down when I was a kid, so I can never participate. And I grieve that.
That's surprising. I
know.
could see you writing some deep poetry.
I did not do shit. I wrote a couple of shitty songs, and they're not even that long, so not enough material. But I don't know. Do you have feelings about the sort of, what is the nature? Because I think this speaks to this idea of like telling truth or...
Yeah, Mortified's a unique version of comedy. You know, when I was younger, I think for me, I was interested in like, you know, acting or film. And I was interested in like being a like psychiatrist, you know, and Mortified is like, it's the fusion of both of those. You know, it's a one show. In a lot of stand-up, you have to appear very confident. And, you know, usually, I mean, you could pull some shtick, but like Mortified, that would work against you. It's like your vulnerability only helps you. The more vulnerable, the more that you can't read your document because it's so embarrassing, the audience likes you more. And it's such a unique form of storytelling. And people would come up and say, oh, I've got this great story. Do you have a diary? No. Well, I'll just write something. Like, no. There's a whole, the authenticity of you reading back from your young, naive self. There's just something about it. And for me, it's really connective. Like, I guess you said that, connective tissue, or no matter if you were the popular kid or the nerdy kid, no matter your race, your sexual preference, we all did not know what we were doing. It's just kind of stepping back from it and kind of laughing at it a little bit and connecting kind of the whole room. You know, we've done virtual shows, and for Mortified, it hurts it. Being in the audience is a huge part of that process. It's just kind of like everyone huddled around this campfire and like sharing, and, you know, they come up and they thank people or they congratulate them on the piece. And it's strange because they didn't write it to be funny, and they didn't create it that way. You know, I was a performer before I was a producer, and it is a pretty cathartic experience to be able to say some embarrassing stuff and like own it and be like, yeah, you know, and I was awkward and I had a boner in front of the math class and fuck it. And that's me. And I'm human. And then get like applause for it also is like really great. And it actually made me, even after the show, not really have shame about much. I could kind of talk about pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I've kind of, you know, that there's universal truths in that. I'm not sure if that answers what you were asking.
I have a question going off of that before. So what do you guys think, both of you, about, I'm going to be super vulnerable right now and say that I think there's a way that, as a part of what makes Mortified so satisfying, is that there's a way that even as adults who like raise kids and have jobs and have a nice kitchen, we still don't know what the fuck we're doing. And we're all kind of trying to figure it out moment by pretend and then collapse. And then, I don't know, this maybe. And so that there's something liberating about going to a time where it's almost like we have permission in junior high to not know what we're doing. And then the script flips. And when you become a quote unquote adult in America, suddenly you're supposed to be like, now I become a this, and I know the things about me. And that's like, I think a lie of our culture, which I think is another thing that makes Mortified so fun, is that it's one fucking moment in life where adult humans get to gather in a room and go, I did not know how to do stuff. And I think part of why people laugh at it is because it's such a relief to admit we don't know what the fuck we're doing and what the fuck this
Yeah.
life is.
Yeah.
You don't know
It's funny,
which yes you say is going to be the Scott yes that leads to all the things, and which is going to be the one that takes you to jail. You don't fucking know.
Wow. I have kids, you know, and like they look at me probably like I have the answers. And I remember being a kid and like, oh, adults know everything. And it's so strange to be getting older and realizing that nobody knows what they're doing. And I also, you know, adults used to look so much older, and now I'm still waiting to feel like an adult. I am now 45 years old.
Yeah.
I'm still immature. There's a lot of things I do not know about. And most people I know feel like they're on the same page with me. And it's at what point will I feel the old, you know, will I feel like I am an adult? I'm waiting for that to happen.
No, 100%. And don't you remember when you were a kid feeling like if someone said they were 45, that was your mom's friend who was old.
Even I could have been 20, 25, and you would have said 45, and I still would have thought that same thing.
100%. And then my mother, I remember one time my mother and I had a conversation, and she was like 53 or however old she was. And she said, oh God, I still feel like I'm 17. And I honestly thought to myself, no, you fucking don't. You're the oldest old lady I know. What are you talking about?
And like, now you're there and you're like, yes. Oh, I get it.
Yes. Yeah. I look in the mirror and I'm just like, who the fuck what's that wrinkly, chubby lady? I'm 16. What's happening? I don't feel like that lady at all.
I recently, a friend posted something on Facebook, who posts occasionally, and I really admire this person a lot. Like, it's someone who I just have so much admiration for. And they posted a thing about like kind of losing it with their kid a little bit and feeling shame around that and feeling frustrated and just sort of admitting that there was challenge. And of course, what you see as a result of a post like that, just 1,000 responses, everybody chiming in, both with kids, without, just going, I fucking hear you. It is hard. None of us know what we're doing. And also thank you for posting that. Like, there's something so deep about people being vulnerable and admitting their mistakes. And it helps the rest of us. The rest of us feel better, not because, oh, good, he's fucking it up, so I feel better. More like, oh, good, we don't know what we're doing. You don't know what you're doing?
Right. It's like
this person I think is amazing. Oh,
you're not alone.
Exactly.
It's unifying because you feel like you're not the only one now. And like there's this culture of shame around being imperfect, which is insane because nobody's fucking perfect. So who are we all pretending for?
When I used to run a storytelling show of my own, it was slightly different than Immortify, but it was still true stories. People had to tell true stories from their lives. I started to develop a theory of what stories worked and what stories didn't. And the stories that didn't work were the stories where you were totally the hero, where someone made themselves the hero of the story without any vulnerability, or made someone else the villain and you were the hero. Any story where you were like, this dumbass and I'm so smart, I was like, get off my stage. I don't want to hear that. And the audience, you could feel the audience just go, ugh. But if you walked up there and was like, wow, this shit was crazy, and here's what happened. I did some good stuff in it, but boy, was it hard.
That makes me think of the story I told at your show and go, fuck, I think I told a terrible story.
No, not at all. You told a story about amazing things happening to you.
I did?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You told the story about sort of falling ass backwards into Sufi school and all the magic that occurred to. That's very different. That's you in a very broken place in your life, struggling to figure out what the fuck was going on, and magical gifts coming your way. Okay. It wasn't a brag. If you'd have told it like, God, I'm awesome, here's how.
Oh, no.
I was top in class in Sufi school.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Valedictorian.
Yeah, but this all goes back to this idea of like vulnerability being a unifying force. Like, if you can't let the light in, let others in and the light in, you know, we've just struggled with this leader who claimed to be invulnerable, who put up this wall of I'm right, you're wrong, everything I say is right. And now we have one who literally says, I'm going to make mistakes. He said that day one.
The least unifying thing he could have done. It created all the separation. So the vulnerability creates unity and the walls create separation, which leads me to a question for Scott Lifton, our guest here today, after all, about like, I guess because I do see who you are and what you do, as being such a unifying force in the world. Like, I experience you as a great unifier of people and of energies. And that's part of why I've wrestled with my own, like, wait, is it okay for me to not be a Scott Lifton? Because if I'm not doing that, am I creating unity in the world? And then I've come around to, like, I get what my role is now, so I don't feel compare despair going on. But I have in the past with people who are super bubbly and in the center of the room and feeling like I have to be that, or I'm not creating unity and what's wrong with me and all that stuff. But anyway, my point being, I see you as someone who does that so organically that I wonder for you, like, to me, unity and spirituality are very intertwined. When I say the word spirituality, I mean, I'm referring to the fabric of consciousness or the fabric of creation that has us all, that brings us, that is the reason that we are all one. We are all one because the little molecules that make up my spirit are no different than the little molecules that make up your spirit. And to me, that's spirituality, is oneness, unity, and togetherness through the spirit. That's how I see it. So it does draw me. We do have a kind of a spiritual podcast here. So I find myself wondering, like, for you as such a unity bringer in your 3D reality life, like, what is your mental, emotional, energetic, or otherwise idea about spirituality for yourself? What is spirituality in the Scott Lifton ethos of the world, if there is any?
Yeah, that is a great question. I actually agree with how you just put your definition of spirituality. I would agree with that. Yeah, I believe in an interconnectedness. I think there are those things, those intangible feelings you get at times or with other people, sensing things that are not there, and there being a greater force at play. I feel like I've kind of always adopted the being wise enough to admit that I just don't fully know what's happening, if that makes sense. I know that there's greater forces at play and I don't fully understand it. I know those moments that I have, and I've told you, I've had a few like little weird, like psychic bits where I'd come to you and be like, Katie, this happened. What the hell is that? Like, what do I do with that? And I do believe in an interconnectedness. I battle, like I said earlier, I battle with being open to a lot of what they call new age or woo-woo ideas. And I battle with being like a New York, like practical cynic. It's almost like I think everything is pointless, but also beautiful and everything's going to be okay. Like, if that makes sense,
nice
to carry all of that at the same time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. No, that's it. That's an actual ethos that like, wait, let me get the words right. You just described the textbook definition of, I want to say, not maybe nihilism, but the healthy kind of nihilism.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah.
There's a really healthy, like, atheistic nihilism that believes there's nothing beyond this. There's no reason. And therefore, we look at how beautiful, it's fucking snowing right now. There's no reason for it. And look how beautiful it is. And therefore, because there's no reason, I'm going to be as kind and generous as I can, because that fills my heart up and I feel happy. And I mean, like I've said this on the podcast before, some people who call themselves atheists, some of them are the most spiritual people I know to me, because they're living by principles that I would call spiritual principles. They call them just like being a decent person. They don't need a God involved or a spirit to just be like, treat other people well and be loving. How about that? Don't be a dick. I need spirituality for that. But they don't, which to me says it's like they're quite evolved as human beings to be able to be like, I don't know, spirit, but I'm just not going to be a dick because that's better. How about that? So anyway, there's like,
I'm open also. Like, I don't even know. I'm more maybe agnostic. I've had moments that just feel like, you're talking to a human and you're like, this feels like this should be happening. And then I'm supposed to be here in this moment. I don't know if I believe that fully every single thing happens for a reason, in terms of, that I'm drinking that chocolate milk that day as opposed to the water, and those minutia, I don't, but maybe that there's beat points that are supposed to happen and the rest is improvised in between. I guess I don't, it's part of what I was saying earlier. I am open to a lot of ideas and I am in a lot of sides and I see perspective, which makes it seem like I don't have conviction, right? Just that.
Yeah. But I frame that very differently. I think so much conviction that people hold isn't actual conviction. It's just it's like a
Stubborn.
it's stubbornness, or it's a need to, or a desire to contract or collapse reality to be smaller than it is. Whereas when you say what you're saying, I hear you saying, I'm open to, I don't know what it is. It might be this or that. It's kind of this, it's kind of that. To me, there's conviction in that, because you're saying I'm convicted to the energy of openness. I'm committed to openness, and that's, you have to have conviction to be open.
That's a great segue. Time check to being open to opening the records if we're indeed going to do it today.
And I want to really say, well done, Cass.
That was a great segue.
We really don't have to at all. Like, we do not have to. And I feel zero rush or pressure to do it. It's such a fun thing to talk with you about these concepts. I'd be happy to just keep talking, or we can open your records.
I am open to whatever. I've got a good hour in me still. So I leave it in your capable hands. It is your podcast. We
technically only have about a half hour more because we try and keep it under 2 hours total.
Yeah.
We'll just edit out the boring bits. Mortified, blah, blah, blah. Spirituality.
But here's the thing I would ask you, Scott, because it's actually not up to us. It's up to you. Like, is it interesting to you, truthfully, and you get to say no? When Carlos was on, I
heard that one.
Yeah, he's like, no, I think no.
I would like to not have that.
Yeah, he goes, I was like, don't do it. Boundaries are our best friends. So anyway, does it sound fulfilling and interesting and exciting to you to do this thing, or does it, or not? Because selfishly, I'll tell you why I'm asking. Unselfishly, I want you to feel good. So like, we don't need to do it if you don't want to do it. But selfishly, it's not really fun or fulfilling for me to open people's records who don't really want them opened, or who are kind of like, I mean, whatever. Because what happens in that case is the energy is really tight and hard to move through, and there's not much that comes, or then maybe I'm given a bunch of light to transmit, and that person ends up being like, I don't know, sure, light, why not? Which is a kind of closed energy. So it's actually like not super fun for me to do it if people are like, So like, I'm happy to just chit chat all day if that feels more fun. But I'm truly want to know your truth about it.
It's funny. My truth is going to be very consistent with everything I've been telling you in this session, that I see value in both sides. I am also, like I said, I'm open to it. I'm interested in having the Akashic records, and I find it to be an interesting experience, one that I don't get to experience that often. I'm also, really enjoying having conversations with both of you about all of this. So, this is a highlight of everything I've been saying to you.
Where do you land?
Well, what I'm hearing is, I'm actually hearing from Katie slightly discouraging language. This is what I'm here. This is how I'm taking it. And so I'm hearing Scott go, I really wouldn't like to, but now I'm hearing that maybe you don't want to. So I'm going to be kind and give you 50-50 as well.
Oh, no.
No. Mine's an honest 50-50.
Yeah,
I am maybe getting that that's what Katie's saying. It is interesting to me, and I am open to it. So I'm not, by no means am I like, blah, blah. But I'm not talking to you today because I came in for a session, because I actually really enjoy what we're doing. So I am exactly 50-50. I am, interested in that. And I am also really enjoying just talking with both of you.
Yeah. It doesn't feel codependent to me, Cass. He feels like genuinely like, and it is right in keeping with what you've said about yourself this whole time. You're like, I don't know, it's all the things, or it's not.
Yeah.
Well, then let's do it. I think we should do it in that case, because that's what we do. And it would be fun for me to explore what your soul feels like. No big deal.
It's only a first date.
Okay. Selfishly, that's what I want. I'm just excited to hear about Scott's records. Like what's going on in there?
You guys are welcome to my soul.
I have to urinate right now. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
This is we usually have a pee break at some point during the show. So this would be your chance for Desmond to pop on and say hello.
All right. Well, I'm going to take this time to do my second shameless plug of the hour. Callum Grant came up on the podcast as, a Scott Lifton type. If you would like to hear those two talk at the same time, check out Apocalypse Now.
I don't want to be another guy to say I listened to the Gurn Blanston episode because I know you guys are like, that's what everyone listens to. But in that, you referenced that like you were going to get the number. I didn't know that from red hair tall man Gurn Blanston, and I pulled you away. You said that like I talked to you that we had to go and you didn't get the digits. I mean, that ended up not being a thing.
In the original
right.
story.
But I didn't know that I did that. I'm sorry. I mean, sorry, not sorry, I guess, if that ended up, but like,
No,
it still happened.
That action made it an
perfect.
actual legendary story, whereas had
Yeah,
that not
okay.
It wouldn't be a
happened,
story.
I heard the story and it's just like, yeah, I think Scott pulled me away. Like, we got to go. And then I didn't get it. And he was about to come back.
No, like it was legitimately the only time you've ever taken my arm and been like this way.
I know. I was surprised that I did that. That doesn't sound like me. So
No,
anyway,
it was perfect. It had to happen that way.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's just
good.
I met a guy and we dated.
No, she would have banged him in the boat bathroom and never talked to him again.
welcome back to the show. We've all peed and chewed.
Okay.
Katie's banging men in the bathroom.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I
Bone
almost
Town.
just died right there. And that brings us full circle to our first conversation today.
About boning on
Well-
boats.
No, so usually what Cassidy and I talk about before the guest comes on comes up later, and it just did. Desmond just brought us back to.
Nice.
It hadn't before, but anyway, blah blah.
Good job, Des.
All right, let's do this, shall we? So I guess my request would be, if you can, Scott, just let's lean you into the less New York side of you today for the next half hour. Just whatever openness practices you have, let's use them for half an hour.
All right. You got
If
it.
you don't mind, because it helps me just on the energetic level. And Scott, what's your full legal name? Scott something?
Scott Adam Lifton.
I did not know that. Okay. All right. So we're going to close our eyes. And if you haven't had bitchin' sauce, I really recommend it.
I'm obsessed with bitchin' sauce.
Fuck, I cannot get enough of it. I could eat it on everything.
This episode was sponsored by bitchin' sauce.
Totally.
And feet first.
Feet first and bitchin' sauce. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to turn your phone off if you can. If you could stomach that for a half an hour. And we're going to close our eyes and we'll take a couple breaths consciously down into the low belly, just allowing the breath to drop more deeply into the body than it might otherwise be. Oftentimes we breathe in the upper chest. We're just going to intend that our oxygen drops all the way down to the pelvic floor. Great. And then we're going to come into contact with the bottoms of each foot, like just becoming aware of the whole surface area of the bottom of each foot. And we'll just imagine in our mind's eye at the bottom center of each foot, a little hurricane or tornado or chakra, spinning vortex of energy at the bottom center of each foot. And we'll just visualize that vortex of energy spinning open and open and open, getting bigger and bigger such that the bottom of each foot becomes a nice open plane of energy. And even if this is all just a metaphor or just an image, let's really see that image and embody that metaphor. Yes, so the bottom of each foot is a nice open plane of energy. Through that open plane, we're going to visualize or allow a bunch of energetic roots from your nervous system, body, being, soul, and spirit, a bunch of energetic extensions of that essence of you to extend down into the earth from each foot, like tree roots. So 500 tree roots right now drop into the earth from your left foot, and 500 tree roots from your energy field drop through your foot into the earth from your right foot. And we'll just intend that those roots extend hundreds of miles down into the planet, left and right and forward and back and down into the earth. And we'll just have the conscious awareness or intention that those roots are going to drop down now to the part of the earth that your soul connects with most deeply, giving up the need to mentally understand what that is or where that is. We just allow those roots to drop to that place, trusting they're going there. I mean, this is the power of intention. When we intend for it to occur, it just does. Great. We take our next step. We're going to see a grounding cord or a root or a tunnel extending from your spine, the base of your spine at your root chakra, or where your genitals meet the chair. And we'll see a nice open tunnel tube or root shooting from the base of your spine all the way to the center of the earth. Nice tunnel extending from the base of your spine to the center of the earth. And we'll see that as being 1.5 feet wide tunnel, tube, or channel shooting down to the center of the earth, nice and wide, nice and open. Yes. Whew, my goodness. And as that tunnel or cord or tube hits the center of the earth, we're going to visualize, pretend, imagine, allow that the earth itself is a spiritual entity that can contribute divine light or just healing energy up through that grounding cord, like a river of light, an abundant river of light, flowing up through that grounding cord into your root chakra or the base of your spine, and then flowing forward into each hip socket, flowing down like an abundant river through each quad, glute, hamstring, knee, calf, shin, ankle, and foot, and flooding down into all those 1,000 roots that we sent down into the earth moments ago. Whew. Okay, and there we're going to go from here. And so from here, we do acknowledge, just continue to see that tripod grounding structure we just created. And Scott, if you can just feel simultaneously into what I'll call the midline of your body, from the root chakra up through the pelvic floor, the belly, the rib cage, the center of the heart, the throat, the center of your head, and up to the crown. Just be aware of that midline of energy. And from here, we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for us and our highest good, and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness. Amen. And direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know Scott Adam Lifton in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Scott Adam Lifton through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Scott Adam Lifton have for Scott Adam Lifton. And I'm just going to go quiet for just a moment here. Okay, wow. And so I'm asking that you just deepen us, Lords, Masters, and Teachers of the records of Scott Adam Lifton, that you deepen us into his records now, and that you clear anything and everything in his field or mind that would stand in the way of us receiving the highest and best information that he can now use for his forward momentum in his specific life, and or the highest and best healing energy that he can now receive. Anything in the way of that, we ask that you take it now, clear it, pull it through, uncreate, destroy it. Amen. Okay, so the first thing I want to just share is that really quickly, just into the grounding exercise with you here, Scott, really quickly, my body started to do this thing that it does more and more lately, actually, which is, it's like, okay, I'm just going to tell you the truth here. We're going to go super esoteric right away and super out there. So my body has really started to move. My hands and arms and head and all of my body is now, these days with clients, part of the healing. So there are light codes that, and frequencies of light that get transmitted to people through the sound of my voice, the energy I'm bringing through, and through what my body is doing physically. So if my hands are moving like this, you can keep your eyes closed or open, whatever you like. But if my hands are moving, the shapes are specific for you. And the shapes are actually transmitting light as well. So the moment we started to ground you, there was a lot of light transmitting already. Just a lot. And even like the framing I get of it is like, not even that it's transmitting, it's that it's here. So as I connect in with who you are organically, and as you ground, because grounding for all of us is always something that taps us into spirit more deeply and readily than if we aren't grounding. So anyway, by grounding, I immediately was taken into how much light you are and how much light you carry just in your existence. And something that I'm getting taught is, right this second, is some people just carry a lot of light and don't need so much structural, spiritual framing in their lives, because by being who they are, they're transmitting light codes and light frequency to the world. So anyway, that kind of supports my atheist theory. Not that you're saying you're an atheist, but just in an abstract way. Okay, so I'm just here with your being and your soul and in your records. Did you have any questions you wanted to try to ask your team, your guides, the divine, anything you need healing with, anything you're wondering about, etc.?
I think I'm open first just to see if there's anything that comes up.
In terms of what?
Actually, I guess about career or doing what I should be doing.
Okay, so how would you frame that as a question?
If there's something different that I should be doing career-wise.
Okay, so what makes you ask the question? Why do you ask?
I think it's like we were talking before. There's still a question of things that I've landed in, but maybe a feeling that I should be doing more.
More what? More time commitment, more money, more what?
Greater purpose, greater growth of self, growing, evolving, learning.
Yeah, right. This makes me, Katie Rubin, uncomfortable because this is a big thing to say, but I'm going to just tell you what I get, okay? Which is, I do get a yes, that there is something else to do, which surprises me personally, but that's the energy that's bright and strong. Yes, that there's something else to do, and that it is about it's about you experiencing a different side of yourself and a deeper aspect of self. Not to say, yeah, it's different from, it's sort of like you could keep doing this and be fine, but that question of whatever you're doing now, you could go forever and it's fine and it's light. You're bringing light and people are happy and you're good with it. And there's like a question in they're showing it to me in your second chakra, like down in the low belly of like, where is the fulfillment I used to get? Where is the fulfillment? There's something missing. And they're just validating that you're correct. You could make some shifts and changes that would facilitate more fulfillment for you. And so the question that comes is, and then I have to share with you something else that's happening for me that's pretty unique in this process. So the question that comes is, what are some of the thoughts you've been having about what it might be if you were to shift, Scott?
That is a tough call. I've, COVID has been a moment to kind of stop and reflect. And I've, applied for other jobs. I've kind of had the luxury of thinking what I've been surviving, but what would actually make me happy? I know I need to make a movie at some point in my life that I want to shoot a full-length film. But yeah, I know all the things that I'm interested around, but I don't know what the specific role is.
Okay, let me just sit with this for a moment. The first question that comes to my mind that I want to throw through the records is like, is this about him approaching what he's already doing differently? No. Is this about actually playing a different role? Yes. Okay. And so is it the film? Not really. Music? No. TV? Working for someone else? No. I'm just running through some options. If you have other options you could throw my way, that would really help me. But I'm just making stuff up.
Anything
right
around
now.
Events or producing?
Yes, that reads events producing. Yes. There's something about, let me give me a moment. Well, okay. So there's something about needing to feel like you're actually making a difference in people's lives, like you're helping people actively. Whereas sometimes your work can sometimes feel like they were happy. It was fun. They were happy. But did I impact them really or something? There's a question. Does it matter? Did I make a difference? Something like that, deeper something.
Yeah.
Does any impact. Of that resonate at all?
Yeah, having a deeper impact for sure.
Is that a thing? What I'm asking though, is that a thing that you've thought about before and felt? So it's interesting. They're like saying that, but also that events and stuff is still feels like a big yes. Is it like events until something? No, it's definitely events. So it's about the type of event and what the content and what the event of the event is, right? So Scott, questions, thoughts that come to your mind.
The events of the
go ahead.
Is it working for myself?
That reads big and bright.
Is it living and working in California?
I don't think that's relevant. The location isn't really the thing. There's something disappointing for you about that, but also necessary. And then like the kids are there. It's sort of like, it might just be the easy way to go. And it might just be what's required right now, but it might not be what excites you the most. California, that is. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So what other locations have you thought of?
I don't. Oddly enough, one that comes up. If I was to go somewhere else, an option is Colorado.
Uh-huh. Cool. That's cool.
I like Portland. I've thought of LA for the industry, even though I'm not crazy about the city. So yeah, I'm not sure.
So Portland reads best of all of those, and California is just fine. It's sort of like, I don't know, the vibe of it is like, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. And Portland is like that too. Yeah, Portland.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, Portland has a little lighterness on it because I think like you're curious about Portland and you like it there, and it feels like something, it feels like a restart, like a fresh start. Like you get to like expand on or build from everything you've known and everything you already are and your connection with the West Coast. And you get to build from there, but in a fresh start way. There's something about a fresh start that feels really brightening and refreshing and happy making for you. It's interesting. Selfishly, I'm like, come to Colorado, but I get a big no on that for you. So I don't right now. Yeah.
So it's not producing spiritual events with Katie as the headliner.
No, man.
Sadly, no. But but I want to explore. So Scott, do you have ideas about what kind of events these might be?
I don't. Again, I've actually really been in a survival mode, and I've been living by the day. And it's very recently in the past month that I've just been questioning, like, okay, you're worried about survival, but like, there's surviving. And then there's like, what would make you like, it hasn't even been in my mindset. It's like someone that has never left their hometown. They don't know outside of it.
Yeah.
I haven't had the luxury in a good amount of time of what would make me happiest. Yep. So I don't have more inklings towards that. That's why I thought I would ask.
Like I'm going through my mind going like funerals? No. Weddings? No. Parties? Yes.
Comedy
is involved, but it's not, comedy. Yeah. Mortified? No. Speechless? No. Because this is about it being yours. Huh. Yeah. What if there were the kind of events and parties? Like a party. It feels like parties, like fun. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'm just listening.
Yeah.
Parties, fun time. Everybody's having fun. You run it. It's your thing. You hire people. It's your vision. Okay. So they're saying it would be good to start to meditate on this. There's 9 pieces. It's like input from every direction now. So number 1, they want me to say out loud, as soon as we started working with you, it's like, usually I have to have my eyes closed to do this stuff. But with you, I don't. I'm going to eyes closed sometimes because it helps me. But there's such a brightness about your energy field that it's almost like in order to be in your records, my eyes have to be open. And they want me to say that because that is a reflection of who you are, Scott. Like you're this like bright light bulb and your very essence is awakeness, alertness, aliveness, eyes open, play, spontaneity, go on the fly. And I don't want to say DJ because of the judgments around DJ. And it's not exactly DJing, but it's kind of DJing, but not DJing. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it's like you're an MC, you're hosting a party, everybody's having a goddamn blast. It's tailored. Oh my God, I got chills all over my body. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to calm down. It's tailored to the individual who books you to do it. You build the event in a really specific way around what would really light that individual up and what would honor them the most in this sacred moment they're in. It's almost like you're like a professional party planner, like a professional party thrower. But okay, now they're talking about the Torah. I don't know. But they're saying like in the way that in the Jewish tradition, you have, there's like a real honoring quality to a bar mitzvah, right? There's an honoring of the spirit of the event and of the spirit and soul of the person. This is what makes the work different, is that it's coming from you really giving a shit from your soul and the pit of your stomach. That's where they want you to create from, by the way, is the pit of your stomach. You giving a shit from the soul level as informed by and created from the pit of your stomach that knows organically how to honor people and acknowledge the depth of who they are. while you're dancing around and DJing and having a great time and whatever. This is your great gift in life, is the honoring of the spirit and the soul and the essence of the other. And this is what you want to build your life around, is your, there's all this fucking marketing talk right now in the world about what's your genius zone? And it's like, fucking everybody's, don't do it if you're not in your genius zone. But also there's truth in that, because this is what they mean by genius zone is, who are you for real at your soul level? And what is your organic gift? Your spiritual gift, what you carry as your essence. And for you, it's this blend of bringing fun and party and light, blended with soulful honoring of the meaning of the moment. There's also something I get, okay, about you being in charge and designing the whole thing is an honoring of who you are and what you know in a way that you haven't yet done as much, because it hasn't been the time or place. But part of your second half of life work is in honoring yourself by being the vortex from which the party or the event emerges. By honoring yourself, you honor everyone else. In other words, you're going to learn about deeper levels of honoring by honoring yourself more deeply. And this is something we would love to see for you in general, beloved, they say, is like what you have in the past labeled as selfishness is not. It is what is required for you to live your spiritual truth. And by spiritual truth, we just mean, what is your soul's essence? Who are you? And you can't replenish if you're in constant social contact. You're correct. You can't. And you must be able to replenish. It's essential for you. And there are some other things, really briefly, there's some other things too that you've called selfish in the past that are not selfish. They're self-care. And you're a grown-ass man and you get to have self-care. You must have self-care. It's time to, it's almost like, all right, there's a little bit of a fracturing of the feminine aspect of self down in the low belly that could use some healing, that would then allow you to trust the value of your own self-care. And this is through no fault of your own. This is just through how you were raised and the context of your birth and the context of your childhood and the context of your adulthood and your life, right? We all have places we come from that we are healing from. No offense to anybody's mom or dad. That's just reality, okay? Everybody's doing the best they can, et cetera, et cetera. So we would love to see you deepen your connection with your own low belly, below the belly button, above the genital area, in that middle place there, where the real inner child of Scott lives, and where the joy seat, the seat of your joy is. Because what a lot of human beings don't always understand is that the inner child and the seat of joy are one and the same as the soul. It's like a piece of the soul. And oftentimes what people do is separate the inner child from the soul, as if there's this kind of lofty spiritual soul notion that does some lofty thing. And then there's your little kid who's upset about stuff. But reality is there's this little kid who's alive inside the pit of your stomach. And as you give him room to be nurtured and cared for and take time alone and take long showers if you want them, you simultaneously, you become a more embodied version of that kid, and then your soul comes alive. It's all one. And that would be the main request we would make of you, would be to begin to really understand the notion that your most high-minded, lofty things you care about, aka honoring yourself and honoring the spirit of the moment for other people and who other people are, honoring them, that is intimately merged with play and your inner child. They are together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, all that very much.
So, follow-up questions from you, Scott, if there are any. Or other questions entirely, whatever you like.
Are we asking a generator to become a manifester?
Good question. No. Here's why. Really good question. Okay. This creation is a response to your life. You are responding to an inner feeling of something's missing. That is a response. So what you create from there, that's waiting to respond. You see, it doesn't mean that a generator can't have a business. It just means it can't be like, I'm sitting here and I'm just making up an idea. I'm going to own a car wash, which is something I came up with recently, randomly, that has nothing to do with my life. But I thought, what a great idea. It'll make money. And that was fully from my mind. And I got really into it for like 3 days. And then my friend was like, does that feel connected to your soul and your essence in any way? And I was like, no. So that's an example of when you're pulling a generator trying to be a manifester. This is more like, I feel something in my body that's like, something's not quite, something's missing.
Okay. Can I ask if this is very little, if it seems like if I will be finally divorced this year?
2021. Yes. Let's see if there's anything required of Scott to make that happen. Not really. You're already doing what you need to do, you know. And they're like, don't be afraid to be a bulldog sometimes. Sometimes you have to be a bulldog when you're dealing with bulldogs, you know? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm good. We have only a few minutes and I know we have to close the records.
Do you have one quickie left or anything?
Anything come up around my kids?
What about them?
I don't know. I see my son struggling emotionally a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing if he's setting on the right path.
Yeah, I mean, I should have just said it out loud when I heard it, but right before I said, what do you mean specifically about your kids? It was like, the boy is having a harder time than the girl. So is there anything we need to do about it? No, just pay attention and just be with him and just give him a lot of love and try to let him be heard. He needs to feel heard. It's kind of like, you know, that parenting thing where you go, I understand. I hear you. What else do you want to say? Rather than, I know, but you're okay. Don't be upset about that. He needs a lot of, what else? You tell me all of it. What else? That is hard, isn't it? Oh, I know. A lot of empathy, a lot of compassion. In a way, he's a more sensitive soul than your daughter. She's tougher. And so he needs, okay, like, forgive me for the genderization of things, but you know, if you were to think of typical gender norms, you would reverse it with them a little bit. He needs more of what you might think a young girl would need. And that's, nobody's wrong here. That's just how his soul is. He's soft.
And if we're going with gender stereotypes, her favorite color is blue, his is pink.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We're breaking the norms, folks.
Yeah, rock and roll. That's nice. Yeah, it's really important with him that he just feel like every emotional moment he has is welcome here, and that he doesn't have to later in life rewire that and learn like it's okay to be sensitive and a man. If you start him off now with like, you fucking feel all those feelings, bro, and here's how you navigate some of it, that's gonna be the very, very best thing for this child. So much care, nurturance, and love. And, you know, sometimes, it may trigger your own, the places in you where you didn't maybe get some of that when you were a kid. And you'll be like, well, come on, just, think about it a different way. Go play with your toy. Do a different thing. That thing doesn't really work for him. I'm sure you get that. Okay. Yeah, that was good. I'm glad you asked that. Okay. I think we should close it here then. Okay. Right. Okay. So I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. I ask that you return all of Scott Adam Lifton's energy to himself. Return him, please, to his complete human wholeness. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Scott Adam Lifton are now closed. Amen. Divine portal and the Akashic records for Scott Adam Lifton are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Scott Adam Lifton are now closed. Amen, 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 amen.
Well, I thought I was going to make it through an episode without crying. That last bit about your son just got me. I was like, bloop.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the visualization, even the beginning, my posture got better. Feeling the line from the in the pelvis up through the head and feeling the earth. the obviously all the talk of self-care, and I'm just becoming aware of that. I'm only getting between, girlfriends and jobs and families. Only now I'm having more alone time because you had to move out due to landlord reasons, but I'm finding it's really important. And it's the only way I can focus. Yeah, the brain, you all have talked very much about the brain versus the body in your podcast. And so, yeah, my brain is I only get that stillness and silence alone, what was called selfish of self-care for sure. Yeah, and it's good. I mean, to know, doing at least in the area of what I'm supposed to be doing, but to have more impact, a way that could be more, feel a deeper impact. Yeah.
Yeah. I sadly have to hop off. I have a client. I love you guys.
Well, do your work, Katie. Go do your work.
It's like, you just went in my soul. There's no pillow talk. It's just way of it.
It is. It often is that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Love you.
Do your work.
Do your work.
Do your work.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
Alls I want.
I'm going to need you to cut that out, Desmond. We cannot have that.
Alls I want.
Please cut that out. Cut that out. Cut that out.
That was a Sounds Awesome production.